Welcome, Nicole, to LinkedIn Live. We're discussing episode number 80 of the Happier at Work podcast. I was so delighted to have you as my guest. And I know I, for one, not that you just explain things in a way that resonated with me in a way that things had not resonated with me before. We spoke about well-being and mental health at work. Would you like to share a little bit about yourself and, a little bit about your background? And we're going to talk kind of in a synopsis format of what we covered during the podcast as well.
Yeah, that sounds great. Well, thank you, first of all, for inviting me to come here. This is my first LinkedIn Live, so I'm really excited
Yay!
to be doing this. Yeah. And I had so much fun connecting with you on the podcast. Like, we just had such a wonderful conversation. So I'm excited for everybody to get a little taste of it and to go listen to the whole thing. But
Definitely.
a little bit of background about me. So my name is Nicole Mixdorf. I'm the Chief Wellness Officer at Balance by Nature, which is an award-winning employee wellness company. And I really have the amazing blessing of getting to spend my days helping other people feel good and helping corporations and different organizations create award-winning cultures of health so they can support the well-being of all of their staff, which obviously in today's time is more important than it's ever been before.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, I think when we spoke, Nicole, one of the things that struck me was this mission of helping organizations to create award winning cultures. And I know we touched kind of towards the end of the podcast on the great resignation and all of that that's going on. And therefore, I think people won't argue with the fact that culture is really, really important, especially now. And it's quite difficult to maintain with remote working, with hybrid, with the future of work. It is quite difficult to maintain. So it'd be really great to cover. I have the notes from the podcast in front of me. If anyone is listening live, I would love if you would give us a comment. This is probably a little bit later than I would normally be on LinkedIn Live. So I'm curious to know whether there are more or fewer people watching at this time. Nicole is on the West Coast, USA. So currently with our time change, they are 7 hours behind us. And going, I think from next week, it'll be going back to 8 hours of a time difference. But that's the reason for this late. Just trying to, two busy ladies and trying to manage our schedules. So just kind of going back to some of the points that we covered or some of the questions, let's say, that we answer on the podcast. And for anyone who hasn't listened to the full episode, the link is in the comments below if you want to listen to that full episode of the podcast. One of the questions that came up is, how does the strategy connect with culture? And I think that's kind of crucial. Sometimes people think of strategy and culture as two completely separate things, but I think it's really, really important to remember how to bring those together so that the lived experience in the organization is reflective of what it is that the company is trying to achieve.
Absolutely. It's so important. And especially right now, given the remote and the hybrid working, it's really hard to maintain that culture. And what's that going to look like now that people aren't all together in the same way that they were once before? But it's not even just that. It's not even just, how do I maintain that culture, amongst a hybrid workforce? But it's a hybrid workforce of completely stressed out, overwhelmed, burnt out professionals that are struggling, like really struggling right now. We're all exhausted from the pandemic. There's a lot of fears that have been cropping up, about our health, about our finances, about our well-being, about economy, about the world, about so many different things. Parents have had to juggle working from home and homeschooling kids, over this last year. And now the worries about sending them back to school and being in person. And, that's been really hard. And then all the isolation people have been feeling have been really hard. There's just been so many layers. And, for a culture to really thrive, you need your people showing up as their best selves every single day so that they can give 100% to their work and to collaboration. Because, from my own experience, I have experienced illness, and that was really caused by the stress of work and
Mm.
also dealing with, my father who was sick with cancer and just so much intensity in my own life. And
Yeah.
I know from my own experience that when you don't feel good, you can't give 100%. So
Yeah.
you're not as innovative, you're not as creative, you're not communicating as well, you're not collaborating as well. And when you look at a culture and you want to have a successful business, those are really important factors. So being able to support your people and showing up as their best selves. But how do we integrate that into business operations, right? It's
Mm.
great to be able to offer different well-being or different wellness kind of solutions, but it's not enough to just offer it. How can we really get this embedded into our business operations, into the
Yeah.
culture? And
Yeah. Yeah.
I really find a big part of that starts on a team level, working with different leaders within the business and giving them tools so that they can start to integrate some of these concepts, some of these their own self-care tools into a team environment,
Mm.
which can then help propel the entire business forward.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. No, that's it. I mean, and just something that you said a second ago, it occurred to me that even when we feel like we are overworked and we have so much to do, but if we don't feel like we're working at our full capacity or at our full selves or at our, at our full potential, let's say, there's the temptation is to keep going a lot of the time. And I know I've experienced that in the past where you're like, I have to keep going, I have to push through, and we neglect to look after ourselves. And then inevitably it ends up in burnout or feeling so
Yeah.
stressed that you can't work, and maybe bringing that to the forefront of people's minds that you actually have to look after yourself first, because it's better that you work at lower capacity, lower potential for a few weeks rather than end up going off sick for a few weeks or for a few months.
Yeah. Yeah. And I had that happen to me. I had to take a
Mm.
leave of absence because I literally couldn't function anymore.
Yeah,
The health conditions that I was dealing with just degraded to the point that it started affecting my ability to do my job and lead a
yeah,
meeting and really function. So
yeah.
you don't want to get to that point. And it's so important to take care of ourselves. And we all know that we should. Everybody knows, like, yeah, 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 I'm supposed to do this, but I'm so busy.
Easy to
How
say
about
it.
these things?
It's
I
so easy to
Yeah,
say and to tell other people that they
yes,
need to fill their own cup and that they need to look after themselves. But when it comes to ourselves personally and taking responsibility for that, then it becomes a little bit more difficult, I think, to
yeah.
recognize it and then just to really take action.
And I find that the question is how. And
Yeah.
that if you can tackle the how do I do this,
Mm.
now you're getting somewhere. And
Yeah.
really, it's all about your daily activities. It's about
Yes.
becoming really intentional with your time and
Mm.
how you're structuring your day to set
Yeah.
yourself up for success.
Yeah.
Because when you wake up and you start your day, looking at your phone, turning on the news, you're in the stress response, you're starting your day
Mm.
stressed. That's going to
Yeah.
set a tone of stress for your day, which sets a tone of stress for your life, right?
Yeah.
If you can
Yeah.
do nothing other than just conquer your morning by
Yeah.
doing, a positive morning routine for yourself, that is going to have a huge impact
Yeah.
on how you feel and how you function and how you perform throughout your day. I know that when
Yeah.
I do my morning practice, I feel more centered, more focused. I'm able to concentrate. Ideas flow to me easier. Things don't bother me as much. I'm a lot more patient, right? I'm
Yeah.
I'm just
Yeah.
a
Yeah.
better leader. I'm a better mom. I'm a better
Yeah.
partner. Like I'm
You
just
don't
better
snap
at
at people.
everything.
Yeah.
Yes,
And I
exactly.
know we do go into more detail on the podcast, and you share some really, really great tips around morning routine and evening routine. And something I suppose I want to share on a personal level from me today. And it just happened. It's one of those days where um, I didn't plan it properly and I feel a little bit like I did pre-pandemic. And I realized
Yeah.
as soon as the pandemic happened and we were kind of forced into our homes, I realized I've been spinning too many plates. I've been booking myself too solid where I need to be in one place and then another place. And that's kind of how I lived. Um, even when I was in corporate, it was like, okay, so I'm in work all day and then I have an activity pretty much every evening. I've got
Yeah.
something on tonight and tomorrow night. And that's how I lived. There was no kind of downtime. There was no taking time for myself. And it's taught me that today I can feel that sense of overwhelm again. That I'm like,
Hmm.
oh, I slightly overbooked myself today. So I better keep that in mind and manage myself a little bit better, in the future. One thing I know is another thing that we talked about, which I think is really, really important, is this idea of actually asking your team what they want and what they need
Yeah.
and having that discussion with them. So it's not a case of like, I'm deciding and this is what's happening. It's more invite your team into that conversation and and find out what's going on for them and what's going to work. And I think there's no easy answer when it comes to remote and hybrid and the future of work and what that is going to look like. I think it's going to be quite unique for individual teams, for individual people, for individual companies as to what that actually looks like.
Yeah, it absolutely is going to be. Every single organization is trying to figure this out. And that's because the pandemic didn't come with a manual, right?
Yeah,
So,
yeah, yeah. Like a
yeah.
lot of things in life, the
Yes,
pandemic
exactly.
definitely did not come with a manual.
Right.
Um, so I just kind of would love to wrap things up, just conscious of time here. And I suppose from my perspective, there's a couple of things that I wanted to share in relation to the podcast. So I put a poll out on LinkedIn there, last week it was, and asked people what they would like to hear more about from the solo episode. So I've recently started doing solo episodes. And the two kind of clear winners were workplace boundaries, and the other one was the future of work, like the hybrid remote and what that looks like. And so the episode that's coming out on Friday is all about boundaries. And as is typical with these type of solo episodes, I'm thinking, that'll probably go for about 15 minutes. And 35 minutes later, I'm still talking about, my own experiences and some really practical tips that people can take action from straight away in relation to their own boundaries and managing workload and saying no effectively and things like that. So that will be out on Friday. And then 2 weeks later, I will be sharing my own insights on remote working, hybrid working, and how to kind of manage that more effectively. And
Sounds
the other thing
brilliant.
I did want to say on just general happenings, I ran the second of my three steps to overcoming imposter syndrome webinar earlier today. And I'm really, really pleased with how that went. So about 100 people signed up in total between the two events. And most of those people showed up live. They got really into the activities and sharing, and it was really, really great engagement. Loved it. If anyone wants to know more about my new program, which is launching, which is called Imposter to Empowered, absolutely feel free to reach out to me. I would love to hear from you. Nicole would love to hear more about, how can people connect with you? What's the best way? Feel free to tell them about your new app that's coming out as well.
Yeah, thank you so much. Yeah, we're really excited. Balance by Nature is launching a brand new TV and mobile app called Wellness Studio TV. We are taking everything, all of our award-winning content, and we're putting it on TV and giving employees a whole new way of engaging with our content, which is great. And what I'm really excited about is that it's really going to be a very unique offering in the employee wellness, well-being kind of space, because it's going to have sort of a virtual gym in it with a live schedule of, different types of fitness classes. There's going to be live meditation classes, cooking demos. We're going to have a live wellness speaker series as well. Of course, there's going to be video on demand. But then throughout 2022, we're going to be rolling out some really, really powerful series. We're going to have a work-life balance series called Finding Balance that's rolling out, that goes through everything from, how to embrace change, how to break through fear, how to build emotional resiliency. So many things that are just going to help you show up as your best self, with boundaries and balance and all these different things that you're already talking about, which I'm getting all these ideas like, ooh, let's
Yeah,
collaborate. Yeah,
yeah.
which is always so much fun, right?
Yes,
But then
absolutely.
we're going to also be launching a healing series, and I'm so excited about that because I've gone on a very powerful, miraculous personal journey of healing my own body using a
Wow.
lot of different holistic healing modalities. And for the first time, we're really introducing all kinds of interesting holistic
Yeah.
healing modalities into the corporate wellness space so that we can not only just help people manage their symptoms and manage stress and just kind of deal with that, but actually heal their bodies, heal their minds so that they can let go of those altogether.
I'm seeing more and more of that in corporate. Like, previously it might have been a bit too woo-woo for the corporate world, but I am definitely seeing that more and more in the corporate world. And, having experienced different types of healing modalities myself, Reiki in particular is the one that kind of stands out to me. I can absolutely attest to it. It's really, really powerful stuff. Really, really brilliant. I love it.
Absolutely. I've had amazing experiences with that too, and so many other things. I'm so excited to bring this. So it's going to be launching in January. You can connect with us at balancebynature.com. That's our website, and we'll be updating that. We have a whole new one coming out very soon, so I'm excited about that. And definitely, if you're not connected with me already on LinkedIn, please reach out to me. I love connecting with new people and just being a resource in whatever way I can.
Brilliant. Thank you so much for your time today, Nicole. And thank you so much for your time on the podcast. Really, really appreciate it. And we'll leave it there for today. If anyone's watching the replay, drop a comment, tag myself and Nicole, and we'd be happy to answer any questions that you have as well.
Absolutely. Sounds great. Thank you.